No Jumper, coolest podcast in the world. And today I'm very, very excited and lucky to have Peter Rosenberg on the podcast. How you doing, Peter?
I'm great. I'm very excited to be here.
Very excited to have you as well. It's kind of crazy for me because, you know, a lot of people don't know this. You basically started the genre of hip hop podcasting, right?
Yeah, I mean, by accident. I didn't know at the time it was going to be a genre. I was like, podcasts were starting to really pop, and I'd gotten paired with Cypher Sounds, and we didn't know each other. So
to do podcasts?
No, we were paired to do a radio show on Hot 97 on the weekends. So Ebro brought me up there. He was program director, and he brought me up there to do a late night show. Mm-hmm. And started doing the late night show, which is all I ever dreamed of in life, was a late night show on Hot 97, Sunday, which I still have, Sundays at midnight. So I started doing that. And then like a month in, he was like, so I want you to meet this guy, Cypher Sounds. I want to put you guys together and maybe start messing around. In my mind, I don't have any idea that he's trying to start building a morning show, obviously, and he's not telling me that. But he's like, we took us to lunch one day, had us meet, and then he's like, I want to try a thing where like Saturday mornings at like 5 a.m. I put you guys on and let you try a show. Mm-hmm. So we started doing it, and we didn't know each other. So like we're on the radio together, doing this early morning show, and we really don't know each other. So I was like, why don't we start doing a podcast right when we get off the air? Mm-hmm. And Cypher was like, what's a podcast? And I was like, it's just turning on microphones and talking, and we'll just put it out on my website. And so every weekend morning when we get off the air, we go in the other room and we would just talk for an hour. And that was how we actually got to know each other. Mm-hmm. That was the only time we hung out.
Like therapy.
Yeah. It was like, here's your new, literally, what I didn't know is, hey, this guy's going to be the person you're associated with professionally, certainly it ended up being like the next 7 years, but really in some way, because eventually of the podcast, for the rest of our lives, we'll be paired together in some way.
And so you didn't realize that you were like Quavo picking out your takeoff and offset at that point.
I would have been his offset, let's be honest. But
okay.
Yeah, we didn't know.
Well, it's a big decision to like partner up with somebody like on a show or on a podcast, something like that. Not a decision you would necessarily make lightly, but that is part of the fun of the podcast, is that you guys are coming from very, very different perspectives, right?
And especially earlier, like if you go back, like at some point I'm figuring out how I'm going to re-release the old ones. Mm-hmm. And although I have to go through them and have someone edit them, because God knows we said shit now that you can't say anymore. Right. Not that like it would ever be anything I'd probably not believe, but our terminology.
Or like ableist stuff, or what? Like call something gay?
Yeah, like there's definitely use of gay talk that, even though me and Cypher were always super openly pro-gay, we still talked in a way that was like a way people talked 10 years ago that you just don't talk now.
Sounding like a wrestling fan, basically. Yeah.
Exactly. And then I'll take that for what I won't be offended by that. And also just like, we would talk every time we bring up a woman. I'd be like, "Did you fuck her?" Like we, talk stupid guy shit that we still were into back then.
But as a guy, you're in the public eye long enough, and at a certain point, you realize like you can't just be like, "Oh, this fat chick," that. Or I mean, you can, but that sounds a lot different than like the way it sounded in your head 5 years ago, right?
100%.
The world's changing a lot,
and it gets awkward to go back. It's like watching Eddie Murphy Raw. And by the way, I'm not a person who's like, "Oh, the world's too PC now." No, the world should be PC. PC does mean. But let me tell you one thing. People tell you they're against being PC. They're a racist, homophobe 9 times out of 10. So I'm all in favor of being PC, because essentially it means don't make other people feel like shit. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we've gotten to a time where, people come for people's jobs based on shit they say.
That's a new wave, yeah.
And that wave is like, it's something I've never been like. Don't get me wrong, I haven't liked Bill Maher for a long time, and I roasted him on Twitter, but I don't call for his job. Like that's just not a thing I do. I don't believe in. It's a scary line of you call for people's jobs because of words they use.
Right.
He's a fucking asshole who's way too comfortable and thinks he's black because he fucked Superhead, and I've always known that. And by the way, if everyone who had sex with Superhead got a black pass, it would be who knows who would be included.
Right.
So that's bullshit.
You ever did that?
I never did, by the way. And that's G-Rap's ex, so I really shouldn't say anything inappropriate. But the point is,
and Fred Durst.
And Fred Durst?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
That's my favorite ex of hers.
Fred Durst is a crazy one.
Really? You ever hung out with him?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure you have.
No, I wish.
It seems like in the LA world, you'd bump into Fred Durst at some point.
I feel like if I put a little elbow grease into it, I probably could meet up with him today.
Right?
Maybe.
Like if he's on Melrose at some point today.
I know people who know. You know what's great about Fred Durst is that when he made the comeback and he did a video with Lil Wayne, I think, and at one point in the video he's got like a gray beard, and then another point in the video he's got a black beard. So he dyed it at a certain point during the video and didn't have
said, fuck it.
Yeah, just went for
it. But there was a time when Fred Durst was one of those artists who, for whatever reason, when I was like in college, was in my crosshairs of like, I fucking hate everything about this dude. Yo. And he wore a backwards red hat, and I always wore like a backwards red baseball cap. And after that, from that point, it was like, what's up, Fred Durst? And I was like, well, fuck it, I'm never wearing a backwards red hat again. And then he did the record with DJ Premier and Method Man, and I loved it.
Yes.
And I fucking loved it.
Yep.
He had Primo did 2 records for him at that time, My Way. And In Together Now, whatever it was. And those 2 fucking records I loved so much.
So good.
It crushed me.
Yeah, amazing. Hey, wait, Buzz. So how old are you?
37.
So you're 37, which is funny because when I was in 7th grade, when I was like 13, Limp Bizkit were my favorite band for a period of maybe 4 or 5 months before I kind of like realized, like, then I started to get more into like punk and hardcore and realized like, no, this is very, very bad. This is.
Oh, if you went to punk and hardcore, you must have really been like regretful of the Fred Durst years.
And only now, within maybe like the last 10 years, have I been able to start to look at like my new metal fandom with a little bit of perspective and be like, you know what? I'm glad that happened because people had to figure out that was maybe not how rap and metal were going to mix.
Yes, that was not it. There have been many ways in which it's not going to mix. And the truth is, I don't think musically it's necessarily destined to mix. It's culturally, it's destined to mix. Like you meet lots of people who cross over, but when they try to be like, let's do the sound. What was the Judgment Night soundtrack? Like that may not be the way to do it.
Right.
Like me and Ebro got into an argument the other day because he was talking about how big Hove is, and we were comparing Hove to someone. All we do is talk about rap shit all the time. And he brought up the fucking album with whatchamacallit. Who's the fucking rock group who Jay-Z? Linkin Park.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I never listened to that once.
No.
I was like, that's not, and it's not a diss to Hove, but it's like, it was for a specific audience. And it worked to a degree, but like the moments in which that's been good have been so few and far between. It's just, we don't need it. I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, by the time that album came out, I was listening to like Hatebreed and like Gorilla Biscuits and all this shit. So I was about 5 million times too cool to listen to Linkin Park in my mind, which at the same time made me feel weird because I'm like a kid reading XXL and reading The Source, and everybody seems to be enthusiastically embracing Linkin Park, and I'm sitting there like, no, you don't understand. It's lame. But
that was always a thing that I think was an interesting perspective as the white guy in hip hop.
Right.
Was that sometimes hip hop would embrace something from the white world that you'd be like, guys, this isn't that cool.
Yeah.
So it was like, for example, I hate, one of my biggest pet peeves is when hip hop DJs in clubs play the white records, they play sometimes the lamest white records.
Okay, what examples are you gonna throw out here?
Like when they get into their fucking
Pretty Fly for a White Guy.
Oh, well, that would be even further. But like, just like the 80s pop rock they decide to play, it's always like Living on a Prayer.
Right.
And I'm like, you don't understand. Living on a Prayer is so specifically like an annoying 40-year-old white woman record.
Right.
There's like cool, like if someone came in, even playing, like now Sweet Child of Mine has become something that people play more.
Right.
But like even that's better, right?
Yeah.
Like play Sweet Child of Mine or play, dude, I always love to play Paradise City. Like play something that's like, if you're going to play a Guns N' Roses record, play Welcome to the Jungle. Play something that still like has some fucking edge to it.
Right.
When you play Bon Jovi, Living on a Prayer, it's just like, it's like looking up white in the dictionary and just playing the first thing.
See, I feel like this is a coastal thing that we're going through right now because I feel like this is something that you maybe are experiencing in like more adult clubs in New York City, whereas I'm going to like warehouse rap shows with like a bunch of 18-year-olds, so maybe I'm not seeing this.
Well, yeah, I don't think they do it there. My guess is that's not a thing there. My guess is I couldn't even handle a party like that anymore.
Yeah.
I think
I was up till 6 in the morning.
Really? What were you listening to when you're up till 6 in the morning?
SoundCloud. My No Jumper SoundCloud likes. It's a treasure trove of weird songs that you will be able to like identify that are like 15% good.
and all sound and like all run into each other for the most part?
I mean, there's similar threads.
I realized I had a moment recently. This is why I'm so glad that your podcast exists, because
I appreciate that big time, man.
There needs to be someone who's passionate enough to like go through all of this shit and help decipher it, because the hard part is, like, I'll get crushed sometimes by people like, how did you not know blah 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 when you interviewed them? And I'm like, bro, I can't. It's unreasonable to think that at the amount of time I've been doing this, that I'm still going to be the person who knows someone after 20,000 plays.
On the A&R level, because it's like you have to, at a certain point, kind of decide what your realm is going to be. But I guess that's the interesting
that's a good point,
question.
Though, because now you are sort of an A&R. And that's a really good point.
I'm doing like unpaid, or not unpaid, but I'm not signing people, but I'm sort of like doing that level of work in a way with No Jumper, because I like that. I like being able to sort of, that's what I'm trying to do, is create a platform in which I can like expose people to more rappers from all different walks of life with like more of a minimal investment on my part, because being that it's mostly just been the podcast, it's a big investment to sit down and interview somebody for an hour, because it's difficult if they're not great at talking.
And you have to deal with some people that aren't always great.
And that's why we're doing the new like thing where we have people rapping in the kitchen and stuff, because then I can have, 5 dudes who are straight up hood dudes who just happen to be doing something online, and I can get them to come through and do it on a less involved level.
That is you're figuring this shit out, bro.
Still a good cosign, I think, for them, and it helps and everything.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, literally, I still have the same thing. There'll be someone will hit me from a label and be like, "We have so and so," and I'll be like, "I'll be honest, I don't have any knowledge base for them. If you want to have them come in and maybe spit some bars, like we could do that. But like, me sitting with them for a half hour, if you don't know someone's story or there is no story,
right?
What's the point of doing it?"
And we were just talking about you doing the Playboy Cardi interview, which you probably don't know, but that's like one of the most requested interviews. People have been begging for us to do Playboy Cardi from day one, and I actually know him, but it's never actually happened. And you were just talking about your experience doing it, because it is a little different when you're interviewing a young guy like him versus like you and I sitting here having a conversation. It feels like we could go for 4 hours. With Cardi, it's a little different. He's not trying to sit there and give you a fucking 2-minute answer.
No, he was great though. He was super appreciative and walked into the station understanding the moment and wanting to really do something good, and was great. He turned out to be a really good one, and I was able to warm him up, and we ended up getting some really good shit. Like when we got to the point where he was talking about how much he loves Currency, I was like, okay, now we're getting to some shit that I find really interesting. But sometimes kids come in and and I'm not gonna lie, I have a certain expectation when you walk in that you're pretty excited. Like I'm like, you're about to sit in the chair that a lot of fucking important people have sat in
and made history and got many millions of YouTube views, et cetera, in this chair.
Yeah, dude, the channel's fucking big, and when you say something here, it can have more impact than saying it anywhere else. And when someone shows up and they're not ready for it and they're not excited, it's a fucking drag.
You're like, what are you doing? Like, this is the same thing as you getting on a song. This is your opportunity to make a splash here. And if you're going to come in and just act like it's nothing, like you really misread this.
By the way, that's a really great way of putting it. You're smart, dude. That's a really great way of putting it, because people come sit down and you're right. It's like a fucking song.
Well, you know what made me think about it a long time ago is that Jay-Z had a bar probably in like early 2000s where he was like, and my interviews is hotter. And I was like, that's it. Like, he gets it, because every time he would do like a XXL cover feature or whatever, there would be a couple of pull quotes that would just be some ground shaking shit, like some shit that nobody had ever heard before. And I loved that he understood the media enough to know that every time he came and did an interview, he was going to give you a big old chunk of his life that he hadn't given you before. So it would have to be a talking point.
Exactly. And for example, I'll talk to an artist that we do an interview with, and I don't think about the interview much after that, but it becomes a conversation point in their life for a long time. And
Huge.
like there are people the Yachty interview where it's like that's something that he then hears about and gets interviewed about again.
You're part of the Lil Yachty narrative at a certain point there, yeah.
Yeah.
I did the first Yachty interview, for the record.
Really?
Yeah.
How long ago was that one?
That was like a little over a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
A lot changes in a year, dude.
A lot has changed. I think he had 15,000 followers, and it was a couple days after Coach K had signed him. So Coach K rolled with him. I had been talking to Yachty on the DMs for like 2 months before that, and Coach K had just signed him. So at that point, it went from like, oh, this is like a cool SoundCloud rapper that has like a couple little hit songs on here, to like, oh, Coach K signed him, so this is definitely happening.
This is the real shit.
This is going. Yeah.
I love the Coach K relationship with people. I fucking love Coach K. He's like a cool dude to get to like watch and be around. Who I've only really gotten to know him over the last couple of years, actually. I guess it's gotten more relevant since Migos and all that shit.
I'm mega jealous of somebody like him, because we had this big poster painting of Gucci Mane on the wall at one point, and he was just like, oh yeah, like I remember that because it was the in the kitchen freestyle. It's got like 80 million views or whatever, and he just said, he's like, Gucci had some bars for me on that song. And then at that moment I realized Coach K and people like him who are around, they know so much more depth about what the lyrics in certain songs mean than I could ever know as somebody on the outside.
Oh, bro, that's basically what Juan Epstein has been. That's like what the whole podcast was me sitting next to Syph, and I come in as someone who is seen as I really know hip hop,
right?
And I do, and I really know it from a record standpoint and a nerd DJ standpoint. But doing the podcast for the last decade, I learned so much more about like culturally what people are saying. Like you think you know, and like I'm supposed to be the white guy who knows shit,
right?
But still, ultimately, until you sit next to people who have been around it, like really were around the artist, and are like, no, he that's not what he was saying there. He was saying this there,
right?
And I'm like, oh, and like, and that was part of the experience that made it so fun. Was like, and scary at times, but was like learning not just what music meant, but how you carry yourself and what's appropriate and what sort of impact you have when you become a player in the culture. And like when I showing up to Hot 97, where it's like it's your dream, and then you get there and then you start learning what this is going to be like having a voice on the box in New York is a lot.
It comes with a lot of fucking responsibility, and you got to carry yourself a certain way.
A lot, and I did not know. And like, and at first, like I remember the first experience I ever had where I was like, "Oh shit!" When I first moved up there, I lived with my aunt in Long Island, in Baldwin, and I got introduced to someone at some point, some dude, nice enough guy. I never had anything bad happen with this person, but he one day was like, "Yo, let me show you around. I mean, I'm gonna pick you up and show you around Long Island." So I was like, "All right." So he picks me up and he takes me around, and I smoke with him, and I'm high and fucking paranoid, and we start driving around, and he's an artist who's got a fucking record that he's trying to push. And I realize as we're like driving around the hood in Long Island, I'm like, I don't fucking know this guy, and I don't know where the fuck I'm going.
Right.
And I don't know, and I started wanting to kind of go home because I'm fucking stoned, and I'm like, all right, I gotta go. And he's like sort of delaying it. And it probably was harmless, right?
Right.
His delaying it was probably really just what it was.
Was this like a rapper that we would know his name if you said it?
Okay. Not at all. Okay. He got a beat from a big producer because there was probably drug money and someone was able to pay someone. And I start putting it all together in my head, and I'm fucking high and paranoid. And I'm like, yo, I want to go, blah, blah, blah. He takes me home. It's cool. It's fine. But I was freaking out for 5 minutes in my head. And I got home and I'm like, he fucking knows where I stay out here. And I was just like, and I told Syph the story, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Right.
And I'm like, I didn't know. He's a nice guy. Cypher's like, never fucking get in a car. What the fuck are you even thinking? And it totally changed the way I dealt with anything. Here's the crazy thing. I've never taken anything for a record. Never, not once. I would sooner cheat on my wife than I would take money for a record. Don't worry. And I've told her that. She knows. I mean, it's at least tempting to cheat on your wife. I have no temptation to take money for a record. It was like, I always knew the second you take money for a record, like my soul would be dead.
That's how I feel too. I've never done it either, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to offer to pay you for interviews. Obviously, people are going to pay for, once the views are there, you will get offered the money for it. Now, here's the hard part.
Yeah. I could do it too because I'm like independent. For you, it would be difficult because it's like you got to put it through, convince other people. It'd be like almost impossible.
I don't even. It would be so bad. Yeah. And like I just knew that when I did that, the kid in me would die. Like the kid who was like, because I'm Captain Purist, like college radio through and that's who I always represented that. So I was like, the second I take money, I will die inside.
Right.
So I knew I wasn't ever going to. That part wasn't tempting. The thing I never thought about was though, how do you say no to people? Because there are people who come up to you and they have fucking money, and usually,
and guns.
I was about to say, usually the person who's offering you money to play their record isn't a person who's the most savory of characters because they're already on the street being like, yo, let me pay you money for a record.
Right.
So then I had to learn, like, how do you treat people in a way where you can say, no, leave me the fuck alone and not offend them and worry that you have a fucking problem? Because DJs get pressed in New York.
Right.
Like, that has been a thing, still is a thing. DJs in the strip club get pressed. I know, I have colleagues, there are people I know who have been fucking pressed. A lot of people get pressed.
But so do you have to move in a certain way? If you go to a club, you have a club appearance or something, do you have to have a guy with you to kind of watch your back?
Never. I mean, listen, I have friends who come out with me, and I have an assistant who's my size, and Hip Hop Mike, he's a great kid. He's just a regular kid. He would fucking kill someone for me if he had to, but he's hardly security.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's always someone with you who loves you enough that if they had to fucking murder someone, they would.
Right.
But I don't have a, like, I at one point after the Nicki Minaj situation,
she came at you with the stick.
She exactly.
It sucks,
But
man.
no,
Safari.
When I started getting heat, it sounds really funny in retrospect.
Yeah.
But in the moment after the Summer Jam shit, and I'm in the biggest controversy I've ever been in, and I'm getting hate everywhere, I go to Ebro and I'm like, bro, you think I should start? Should I bring someone around with me? And he was like, bro, like, you don't need. He was like, only people who put out negative shit need security with them. He was like, you didn't say anything. He's like, all you said was you didn't fuck with her song.
Right.
People know that. Like, there are people who are going to be annoyed, like her barbs and shit are going to be mad, but no one's coming to fuck with you because you're credible and all you do is critique shit.
Right.
He was like, the second you start bringing someone around with you is the second you start inviting that shit. And I had people, of course, offer me like, yo, I know someone, I'm an ex-cop, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what, you're right. And I made it through that moment, never worrying about it. And bro, I had a conversation with a rapper the other day I told his team, I'm like, yo, your security's too tough, bro. They don't need to put that energy out. So no, I never move around with anyone.
Talking about Yachty?
I'm not talking about Yachty. Although Yachty, that is true too.
Well, I've heard about Yachty's security smacking the shit out of a handful of people over the past few months.
Well, Yachty needs it. And
it's
not because Yachty puts out negative shit at all. It's because Yachty happens to be this really divisive character.
He's way too famous all of a sudden.
And he's way too famous, and he's flossy.
Easy to recognize too. You can't miss him walking on the street.
At all. So between the floss, the recognizability, the fact that people know he has money. With me, it's like, I don't think people assume I have that much money. And they're right. I think, and I don't floss. Like, I don't have any reason, and I don't say negative, nasty shit about people. So between that, I was like, I'm not ever going to bring anyone around.
Right. All right, let's switch it up. What was your feeling as you watched Bill Maher drop the N-bomb on TV the other day, making every other white guy out there cringe at least a little bit?
It was in our group. We have a group. We have an Ebro in the Morning like group chat with like all of our family, like all our work family. And Scotty Beam, who is who's our black militant sister in the crew, sent this thing to all of us and was like, look at this shit. And Scotty can be sensitive sometimes. So I'm like, what is it? Let me go watch this. And I watched it, and I can't say I was surprised because, like I said, he said it before.
Has he, like, in a similar context?
Not quite that context, but I've heard him say it.
Right.
And then I've also heard him say other shit that I'm just like, no. Like, I haven't fucked with him for a long time because I think he's Islamophobic. And I think, like, when I saw his movie Religulous, as a Jew, I was super offended that, like, he didn't take any shots at Jews in the movie. Like, he buried Christianity. Sorry, that's wrestling talk. He crushed Christianity. He crushed Islam.
Right.
And Judaism kind of got off in the movie as if we're not fucked up too.
Well, Judaism is one of the more ideal religions because it's kind of like kept to yourselves. Like there's no...
We don't push it on people.
Right.
And I get that part.
That's one real good thing about
It's a great thing. That's good. And how quickly we do funerals is also fucking great. People die. It's like, let's get this shit done with by fucking Tuesday.
There's some weird shit going on in Williamsburg with the deep Orthodox community though.
Well,
he could have gone into that.
Thank you. Thank you. There's a lot of weird shit. Like, of course there's weird shit.
I didn't think of it like that till now, but there's a lot of strange things happening in any Orthodox community,
exactly.
you know? Yeah.
When you get into the fundamental religious people of any religion, there's weird shit. How are you going to make fucking Christians look like shit? Like, you show me a Christian that is all fucking weird and a quote-unquote Jesus freak, and I'll show you a Christian that I know who, when they talk about Jesus and stuff, I'm like, all right, it's not necessarily for me, but as a result of their religion leads the best, most positive, pure life, or it saved them from addiction or whatever. So for me, Like my football coach growing up, I didn't play football. The Washington Redskins football coach was Joe Gibbs. He was super deeply religious, and like every player loved him. You know what I'm saying? Like there are people who like Jesus makes them great. There are people who Allah makes them great. So like I just find it odd that you're this super progressive person, but whenever Islam came up, he would sort of toe the same line of Islam's the most evil religion. It's the reason there's terrorism. Like, and I just, it always bothered me. And other liberals, you know, would go do his show and sit there, like with the exception of Ben Affleck, like very few people it was Affleck, I think, who called him out. There's very few people who'd call him out. So I already had been off of Bill Maher for a long time. And then when this happened, I'm just like, I already knew. I don't think they should fire him. If the show gets ratings still, I don't think he's a bad person. But I think what he did was classic white people who think because they're accepted or seen as liberal, they can say whatever they want. And I know better than anyone, much better than Bill Maher, that you can do literally, I believe that I have contributed positively to hip hop culture for over 20 years. And if I said the wrong thing, I could be finished in one fucking day.
Right.
And I know that. And I have to talk live every day for hours, unscripted, about racial issues. So I give myself an opportunity to end my career daily, every day. And I somehow, knock on wood, managed to not do it. So how do you have a 55-minute taped show once a week? Oh no, they go live the first time, I guess. And you can't fucking manage to not say the N-word?
Right. That was weird. Like, okay, you know what? It's the ultimate collision of something that it's offensive. Nobody wants to hear a 60-year-old white man say that. And it was just not a good joke. It wasn't funny. It landed bad. It was just, even that the white guy who's sitting across from him, like, I actually kind of disagree with people who are acting like his reaction wasn't good enough, because that was the most uncomfortable I've ever seen someone in an interview. He's
I couldn't agree more. That's bullshit to say he needed on the guy's show to call him out. Like, he was sitting there like,
He looked about as uneasy as you could possibly look. I think I would have stared at the camera and been like,
bro, if I'm telling you this right now,
a little more overt. You know?
Let me tell you this. If I used to like, I could see myself judging someone for what people judged him for. Except I have been in. You know how many times people have said weird anti-Semitic shit to my face and I don't say anything. I'm just like, okay, that's awkward. Like, usually when people say something crazy, unfortunately, I'm not courageous enough, I admit it, to be like, how dare you? That was anti-Semitic. I just usually am like, oh, well, that's all.
I mean, you got to pick and choose your battles. Like, there's a certain point where you don't necessarily need to get into like a huge argument about every little tiny detail of it. Although if somebody says something anti-Semitic, that seems like a pretty fair reason to
it would be, but I'm a pussy and I don't say anything. And I'm like, all right. And I go home and talk. I'm like, oh, can you believe what that guy said? Like, I admit honestly, that's what most people do. Black, white, I mean, Jewish, whatever you are, if you hear someone say something sketch, for the most part, you kind of look, dude, black people have been used to that. Black people have been looking the other way at uncomfortable statements made by people their entire lives. Now, the N-word might be a bit far, where people might look at them and go, excuse me?
Right.
But these days, bro, Ebro calls people out. When Ebro hears like white people that we know who are like really comfortable, drop it, and they don't drop it in that awkward a context, but in any context, he'll definitely be like, nah, not around me, fam. And and Ebro's old and is huge, and people are like, okay.
How tall is he?
He's only like 6'1", but he's an imposing figure.
The beard and shit.
And shit. Like, when we go out together, like, I feel somewhat famous when I go out to a poppin' thing in New York.
You feel like he gets that much more attention than you?
Yes.
Really? Okay.
He stands out so much more than I do. Okay. Like, when he walks into a room, it's like undeniably, like, he's taller than everyone. He's got the beard. It's like, that's Ebro.
Right.
I'm just sort of mixed in with other random white dudes, and it's like, you have to be like, oh, I think that's Peter Rosenberg. But Ebro, he towers a bit.
Right.
But yeah, it was uncomfortable, dude. And I don't understand. Listen, there are times when it's frustrating. Like, I had a tweet recently that I had to delete, which got me so fucking mad because I was getting called out for the most absurd shit, and I was like, I can't believe that I still don't get a pass and that people don't understand. And when I say a pass, I just mean a pass that you assume that something that doesn't sound racist would not be racist.
Wait, what did you say?
I said it was during Remy and Nicki.
Okay.
And everyone was fucking tweeting me about it so much. And I just tweeted out, I'm like, damn, if y'all cared as much about the election as you cared about Remy and Nicki, Trump wouldn't be president.
Okay.
And I started getting called out by people saying that when I said y'all, I meant black people. And I'm like, really? And I was like, I'm going to tell you what. I don't believe in such thing as an N-word pass. There's no such thing.
No.
I think I have a y'all pass. I didn't mean it that way. Like, I meant people on Twitter. Give me a fucking break. I was like, do you ever listen to me? Like, I'm on the radio every day for 4 hours talking about issues. And you thought, yo, bro, I had a situation when I started the radio station. I've told the story before on One Ep, I think, but where I was sitting in a room and with my new coworkers, and someone texted me who was also in the room. And he's like, yo, bro, did you say something weird a few minutes ago? And I'm like, you're in the room with me. What are you talking about? He's like, so-and-so said you said the N-word. And I'm like, well, I've never said the N-word.
Right.
I certainly didn't just say it now when I just started at Hot 97 in a room full of my black colleagues. And I had to go to this person and say, I know you thought you heard me say something that I didn't say, and she was like, no, I heard you. And I was like, I didn't say trigger. I didn't say bigger. I don't even know what word you're thinking would have been that. And she hit me with let's just agree to disagree. I was like, no, agree to disagree. We are going to agree.
And this is recorded. It's like, you can check the receipts real quick if you want to call me out, right?
Like, no, it wasn't recorded.
It wasn't recorded.
No, we're just sitting in a room. I was just randomly chatting with people.
Right.
And so my point being, like, there are times when it can be frustrating that I know it doesn't matter how long I put in the culture and society and the social media era. Yeah. You could still get your whole shit blasted in 1 minute.
Right.
And that sucks.
Well, it's kind of weird now, because don't you feel like people get called out so much for the shit? And I'm not denying that there's a shitload of people who get called out that definitely deserve to be called out, but I feel like we've so consistently seen like everybody in hip hop get called out for being racist, homophobic, sexist, etc., that it's really lost some of the oomph that it once had.
I know, and sometimes you're like, no, this one's actually really bad.
Right, yeah.
And I'm not comfortable with this.
Like, there's all these really, really, really racist people out there that are making themselves more known than ever, with like the Richard Spencers and the alt-right and everything. So to and I understand that like maybe Yes Jules has said some stuff that we could be critical of, but let's be honest, she's 99.9% on the same page as the liberal cause, as anyone from Black Lives Matter who's calling her out. I mean, she's right there. I think we almost need different language to describe somebody getting too cozy and feeling like they can maybe make a joke or a reference that they shouldn't make and being outwardly racist. Because even with Bill Maher, I don't think him saying that, I think that shows that he had a complete lack of tact, that he wasn't able to predict the reaction to what he was saying there. But I think calling him a neo-Nazi because of it is a little off.
I think you make a great point. The language part and how we describe them is great. Like, Yes, Jules, and I saw her. We were both hosting Rolling Loud the weekend she had her last thing happen.
Bad timing with that.
I know.
For her.
And it was the first time I met her in person. I didn't even know her. So I go to see her. I go up to her and I'm like, "How you doing?" And she's like, "All right." Blah. And I didn't know her well enough to like give her. I was like, keep your head up. Just make sure you keep going out and be yourself, and don't get scared or whatever. Like, if it's not who you are, it's not who you are. Blah blah blah. I didn't have to. Like, here's the problem with Yes Jules. People need to. It's just about being mindful and caring. And like, my issue is, and being the age that I'm in, I made a conscious decision when I got into hip hop to not only be into hip hop, but to take an interest in Black culture, right? And to care about everything. And like, I think that's really important. So like, otherwise, that's where the word like culture vulture or cultural appropriation comes around. Because if you show up and you're here for the parties,
exactly,
and in the case of her in particular, you're a white chick with a fat ass who's seen with black men, and you love hip hop, but when it comes to this shit, you keep being casual with the N-word or something. That shows a fundamental, like, you're not going in far enough. Like, if you're gonna go in and you're gonna profit off of it, you need to truly love it. And I would say this to Yes Jules: if you truly love it, spend time understanding the culture and understanding why the idea of retweeting something with the N-word in it wouldn't even be something you'd consider. Like, that's not even, I wouldn't stand next to it ever. It's not hard for me. Like, I don't have any Like I often make the joke that like I've edited out the N-word so many times I should win an NAACP Image Award.
Edited it out from what?
From radio songs. Like I literally have eliminated N-words many times. Like, I spend hours and hours editing N-words out of songs.
Right.
Like it's never. I've been surrounded with that word for 30 years. And I've never once been like, oh my God, I need to say it.
Exactly. And I think that's because me and you grew up as hip hop dorks.
Hip hop first.
Yeah. And to me, it's like when I was in 8th grade, it's like, okay, Eminem doesn't have an N-word pass. Eminem's the white rapper and he doesn't say the N-word. Therefore, I don't want to say it either because that's apparently the rules in hip hop. And I grew up in a situation where, you know, like the white kids in the trailer park, they N-worded it up hard. But to me, it was like, oh, that's trashy. Like, I don't want to be, you know, because it's just not me. I didn't grow up like in that kind of.
Well, here's the fucked up part too, dude. It's like you could find a white kid out there who says the N-word and they're like, nah, I just say it like, you know, the rap songs. But dude, they really say it in the racist way too. They say it both ways, bro. Yeah. I'm telling you that shit happens. Like there are white kids out there who they say it, they try to say it in the cool way. And then when they're alone, they really do describe a person in the worst way possible with it. Like, dude, there's a classic video of mine that doesn't even have any fucking views 'cause it's from the beginning of it was my first Rock the Bells I covered. And I'm interviewing some white kid and he's excited to see Rage. And he's like, I'm here to see Rage, N-bomb. And I'm like, whoa, dropping an N-bomb on camera? And we have this exchange and he's like, and I'm like, you don't think Rage would actually be cool with that? They probably wouldn't be with that. And we have this exchange back and forth. And it shows the most like fundamental situation in which like you just think it's sweet. And like, it's not. Like that word has impact. And like I can have really long, in-depth debate about taking power away from the word and this and that. But ultimately, I just don't get why white people don't understand that if you have all the privileges that come with being white, and there are a lot of them, there's only one. Black people want one thing. Don't say the N-word. And you're like, no, I want the N-word too. It's like, really? Just let it go,
You couldn't think of one other word in the English dictionary that has 1% as much stigma and just weird energy associated with it. It's like, okay, that's the one word. Like I could sit here, I don't use the word faggot on a day-to-day basis, but I could be talking about, obviously, I was walking on the street the other day, I heard this guy say faggot, blah, blah, blah. I wouldn't do that with the N-word. I don't want to, I don't even want to be recorded saying it because it's awkward. You know, faggot has a little bit of leeway. You understand that you can talk about it like that. You could at least
quote it.
Exactly.
But you can't quote and it's not that hard.
Yeah.
And like, listen, the gay experience is really rough in America.
Right.
It's shitty. And that word, you know, it's something we used to say as a joke that you wouldn't in a random room go joke around like that anymore.
We didn't have gay slaves. So it's a little less loaded.
This is you and I are kindred spirits. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's a similar struggle because I see you and I both as guys who clearly have our best intentions in the right place. We just love rap music. We can't help it. Like you and I both love rap music in the same way that I know you love wrestling. In the sense that I love it. I love everything around it. I love the culture. I love the details of the industry, the back everything about it, the performance. I love it all. It just so happens that I am particularly interested in a culture that is a black culture that's originated from black people. And you have to at some point figure out how to move, how to speak about it in a way, because you want to make it exceedingly obvious that you're an advocate for everybody. And it can be hard because a lot of people really kind of want to cast the worst possible, cloud over your intentions.
What's your ethnic background?
I'm French, Canadian, Italian, and Irish. Basically, I'm from like outside Boston, so it's a little medley of white boy things.
Interesting. Yeah, 'cause it's so often that like, you know, in my life, the amount of white people that I've really liked and have been kindred spirits with, I mean, are often Jewish. Like it's a very common thing that, don't get me wrong, I've met Jews in the industry I fucking can't stand also. But a lot of the really good white people in hip hop have so often been Jewish over the years. And it's just something it's always been very interesting. And like people who really know what's up, because like there's an interesting dichotomy of like, in New York, blacks and Jews had some weird shit for a long time. A long time. In the 80s were still particularly rough. But ultimately, there's always been, you know, Jews, even though like we run, quote unquote, run Hollywood, and definitely some of that weird shit exists. I'm not saying it doesn't. But from a really awesome standpoint, there's this long history of Jews supporting black arts. Like that's always been a thing. And it's sort of a lineage that if you go back and look at is really cool. And like, you know, and to that extent, there have always been a certain amount of white people that we're not the people at fucking people over, because those people exist too, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that's the shitty part, is like, there are always going to be people who had the worst experiences with white people being involved in them, and then you meet them. You know what I'm saying? You have the other experience yet where you meet that white dude who's with the artist or who's a whatever, and you talk to them and you're like, oh, you're not fucking of this at all.
Yeah.
Like, you really are that person who, like, I wouldn't trust at all.
Yep.
And I'm uncomfortable with it. And then you get why people then judge you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How old are you?
33.
Yeah, it's interesting. And by the way, it's 4 years is not that much, but in music terms, it's also very different.
Right. Well, and I mean, our reference bases as well. I feel like you were into more. Well, what were you listening to? Like, okay, this is the big question. What were you listening to summer after high school? This tells you everything you need to know about somebody.
Wu-Tang Forever.
Oh, okay. So that was 7th grade for me.
Right.
So there you go.
Wu-Tang Forever. All those things are a big deal. Like, I am old enough to remember how great 1988 was in hip hop. You only have heard about, like, you didn't remember.
Well, 1998 was great.
1998 was also.
No, for me.
But 88, what year were you born?
83.
Right. So you're 5.
So 92 though was when I first like got into like Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and was like, this is it. And actually, this might offend you. That's when I stopped watching pro wrestling, because I like replaced it with rap in my life. You can smoke here, by the way, if you want.
By the way, I would never do this anywhere but here.
I think it's great.
Yeah, I'll take a beer too. Why not?
Wow.
By the way, I don't do this anymore. Are you guys still underground enough that it feels comfortable for me to do this?
I had a bunch of guys on here doing cocaine during the interview the other day.
All right, so I feel like I can smoke. And by the way, I do not smoke at home, but when I'm out of town, I smoke cigarettes sometimes.
No weed these days?
I don't take very limited.
Okay.
Very limited. As I got older, it just became something that I started getting. It became more paranoia. That's the nice part about you not being Jewish. You won't have it as bad.
Do you think that weed is a negative thing for somebody who's trying to be an on-air personality?
Not anymore. You know, it's become something that's like, it's not even like you can even joke about, like, I have a show on ESPN radio, and like my older co-host will still sort of mock me under the oh yeah, you're smoking weed. You know what I'm saying? And it's a very corporate place, but it's become so culturally acceptable. I feel way worse about cigarettes. Like, I would take a picture with a joint near me. I wouldn't take a picture, like, when people come to pose with the picture, if I'm smoking out at an event, I always hide my cigarettes.
Right.
But like, because I think cigarettes are actually really bad. I don't think smoking weed is bad.
Yeah. Cigarettes are evil.
Yeah, cigarettes are like literally designed to just be bad. And I happen to have an odd relationship with cigarettes, where I can go out of town, smoke some cigarettes, go home, and not smoke.
Yeah.
And most people, the reason I think smoking's so terrible is just most people don't do that. Like, you become a full-time smoker, it's the rest of your life, and that's it. Like, smokers are always jealous. Like, whenever I'm telling a smoker I'm trying to quit, they're like, how many do you smoke? And I'm like, I don't know, like 2 a day.
Yeah.
They're like, dude, do that for the rest of your life. I wish I could do that. And I'm like, no, I still think it's bad. I don't think you should.
Yeah.
It's just bad.
I meant more like, I think weed, sometimes I think it makes me a little slower. It makes my word recall maybe a little bit worse. It maybe makes me a little bit more antisocial at times. It might not make me, might make me want to stay on the couch and not get out of the house and go pursue
I just
interviews.
I don't like myself socially when I'm high. I start getting in my own head and just feel weird. And like, it's just, I had so many experiences where I was hosting shows and got really high with an artist backstage and then walked out and I'm like, oh my God, there's 10,000 people here and I'm fucking stoned out of my mind. And like, I had that experience happen so many times. Once we were hosting a live stream. I don't know what the event was. It was some Hot 97 concert and we were hosting a live stream. And fucking Bronson, I had never dabbed before. And Bronson's like, yo, you got to try this, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, word? And of course, not knowing what I now know, I just took a regular big hit of a dab. And bro, I had to then go host the live stream with the Locks. So it's like me,
oh my God,
Jada, Chic, Styles, all on camera doing a thing. And they were busting my balls and like giving me a hard time.
They knew you were too high?
No, they were just being like, they were just fucking with me and being like, Styles was fucking with me because I owed him money for something, for a bet we had, and I was just so fucking high and miserable. Dabbing's fucked up. I think dabbing actually is probably worse than it gets credit for.
Yeah. I did a dab the other day and then I had to drive like 45 minutes. I'm going to be honest, I probably should have been pulled over and arrested because I was fucking in another world, man.
I was going to say, like, that is, like, I think everyone, if you went through the experience of like a real smoking phase, you know, smoking and driving is something that definitely happens. And there are people where I really do trust them and know it's fine. And then there are other people where it's like, no, you shouldn't smoke and drive. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like drinking and driving, which is just down the board.
Yeah.
Terrible. And that's how my brother-in-law died, and I fucking am super bitter about it. But smoking's bad too. And I have to admit, there are people I've known in my life where I would trust them to do anything high. And then it's like, me? No, I wouldn't trust me to do anything high.
There's a ton of people in my life as well as your life, and almost myself to an extent, where it's like you smoke so much weed that it's like there isn't really a not smoking weed. So driving without weed would be almost impossible to imagine.
Yeah, there are people I knew, even in high school, there were people I knew who I was friends with who I was like, oh, they can be high and do anything.
Right.
But the drinking and driving thing still fucking irks me too, because like I still know people who I love who know what my family's gone through and still are doing it. Like, and they may not realize they're doing it because they're like, no, I'm just having a few drinks. But I'm like, no, I see you having mixed drinks, dude. Like, if you're going out to have mixed drinks, to me, that's the line of you're not driving.
I'm 6'3", 225 pounds, and if I had like 2 Jack and Cokes, I shouldn't drive.
Right.
In my own opinion.
I agree. Now, I think the line is if you're going out to an event, you have 1 mixed drink. I think you're probably fine.
Okay, 1.
But you also don't know how it's being mixed.
Exactly.
Yo, I had a drink yesterday. I went out with my boy, and I had 2 little margaritas in the small glasses. And I left, and I was like, and I ate, and I was eating. And I left, and I was like, bro, I'm actually kind of drunk right now.
The unsung hero is Uber. Because Uber is like, I had friends who would drive drunk every fucking night when we would go out, and that is just all over now. It's all Uber.
Can I just ash on the floor?
Yeah. Okay. Take a shit on the floor, spit on the floor.
I'm sure it's not the worst thing that's happened in this room.
There's been a lot of fucked up shit that happened in here, my friend.
The room looks pretty good considering.
Considering all the debauchery that's taking place in here, yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
How long exactly have you been doing this?
A little less than 2 years, I believe.
And what was your catalyst for doing it?
Well, so in 2006, I started a BMX website. It was sort of like the first BMX blog. And like the reason why I started it was because I was a huge now right head, and I was living in New York. I had like broken my leg. I was playing online poker, trying to make a living doing that.
A good plan.
Yeah, it was all right for a while. But then basically at a certain point, I was like, oh, I can start a BMX website that's just like Now Right. And then that became like my thing because it was the first like BMX website in the sense that we now know of it. And so that was going really good. And then at a certain point, after about 10 years of doing that, and I'm out here and we have the bike shop and everything, I was like, I want to start doing podcasts, mostly because of like you, Combat, stuff like that. I mean, I started mine really at almost the same time that like Joe Budden started his, that Tax started his. So it's sort of that... I'm not going to say the second wave, but you know, I was really influenced by you, and I'm hanging out with all these like cool rappers and pro skaters and BMX guys out in LA, and it sort of occurred to me like I can take this beyond just the BMX stuff and sort of use this as a way to start really covering like the scene that I'm sort of around, that because you know I'm listening to you and Combat and everything, but you guys are doing a lot of Tribe, De La, stuff like that, which is interesting to me, but I'm like, damn, I got all these young ass kids around me. I got to start, you know.
Bro, and that's what got me so excited about it, is I'm like, you know, me and Syph just announced that we're going to like go away for a little while. And it's been 10 years of doing this podcast.
Crazy.
And we really hit like, there are still things out there I want that I didn't get. But ultimately I was like, if I felt a little better about it after I saw that your shit was happening. Because I'm like, there's someone who I can tell super caring, who's taking it to the next place, where you're documenting the new history that's being made. Because our shit was about documenting the old history, and we've done it. You know, and I do want to develop the plan to like syndicate our old ones, because when we did the show, we existed in a time in which podcasts weren't anything.
Yeah, nobody really knew what that was, right?
So even when we did our Jay-Z interview, it got maybe 100,000 listens or whatever, but like, that was an era when podcasting didn't mean anything. So the audience that's heard our Jay-Z interview is still limited.
Right.
Like we did Eminem.
Kanye.
Yeah.
Eminem, what year was that? I think I might miss that one. I have the app on my phone still, I think.
Eminem, that app is not updated. Eminem was around the Royce album, when they did the album together, Bad Meets Evil album.
I mean, that's crazy. But that's kind of the question right there, is like, okay, as a podcaster, and I've seen it happen with you, I've seen it happen to like Combat to an extent, where I think you get to a level where you've had damn near everybody that you can imagine, and at that point, what's fueling you to keep going?
Well, here's the hardest part for me and Syph, and this is important. It was never our job at all Like never. Like the most money we've ever made has been money I still have never seen. Like by the time we split it over our little advertising, it was nothing. It was it felt no impact. So like we never got. Ebro was making fun of us the other day. He was like, damn, y'all are like old school rappers who like did the shit and now everyone's making money and you never made shit.
Right.
He was like, people are about to start calling you Uncle Peter and Uncle Syfe. Y'all about to be showing up at clubs like, yo, can I get in like +7? Because at New York, one of the best things about it is like the old school heads are all around. And like there are some cats who are doing really well. There are other cats that it bums you out because they're not doing as well.
Right.
But there is still inherently this funny thing if you're around it of like OGs who you're like, oh shit, here we go. I got to make sure they get in. Got to take care of them and show respect.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so like that is me and Syfe when it comes to podcasting. And for us, because it was never our job, we weren't really able to even compete. Like by the time Combat got real serious, it was on his shit, I was like, yo, we're finished out here. From the standpoint of being able to do as consistent a job as, now we may do a different podcast, and I think the difference with me and Syfe is it mixed nerdy and funny more than most do. But I was like, we're never going to be at the level of people who like, this is their shit.
Right.
Because for us, it was always just fun, and then people got really into it. And then we realized it was kind of important.
Yeah.
But still, between me working now at Hot, ESPN, WWE, I'm swamped. So like, the shit I do is all extra.
Right.
And like, there was a couple months ago, I got so annoyed by one interview I did. I interviewed Rock Marcy on Hot. And I hit him because he had a new project out, Rosebud's Revenge. So I hit Marcy and I was like, yo, you should come up. He's like, all right, no doubt. He comes up to the station. I interview Rock Marcy. It was the day fucking Kendrick's album came out. And I do the interview. I hadn't really prepared for it. Like, I fuck with Rock Marcy, but like, I'm not like a super fan of his. I just fuck with his shit and think he's dope. So I do the interview, forgot a couple things. Like I was like, you've collabed with Bronson, right? He's done like 5 songs with Bronson.
Yeah,
so
I hate that.
So I saw the comments and I'm getting just roasted.
Right.
There's one random Twitter dude who has a decent amount of followers just ripping me like, what? You fucking don't, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you realize that like I did that on a Friday after work just to do it so I could get him up on Hot 97 and post the video on YouTube just so I could get love for his album.
Right.
There was no benefit for me whatsoever.
Right.
And then you still get crushed for doing it. And that's when you're like, I need to be mindful. And at the same time, you're embarrassed because you're like, I know I could have done a better job.
But then there's 2 different like ways to go into an interview too, where Gary Vee. So I seen Joe Rogan interview Gary Vee one time, and at like 20 minutes into the conversation, Joe Rogan's just like, so that was your first thing? Like you started off doing like a wine website or something? So that right there told me that Joe Rogan had not researched this interview at all. He just knew about this guy. He thought, oh, he's an interesting guy. He's cool. I'll do an interview with him, which I found really interesting because that exact thing that you're talking about, that freaks me the fuck out is when I have somebody here and I'm like, oh, so I just saw that you got a collab with Lil Yachty, and they're like, oh, I've done 4 collabs with Lil Yachty, and you're just like, oh. Like, but why is that? Why am I putting myself in a box where I feel like I need to know everything?
You don't.
And a lot of podcasters just go in knowing damn near nothing.
Well, Rogan does a show every day.
Right.
So like the idea that he's going to know every guest, like I didn't know the fuck Gary Vee was, so he started popping up on my social media.
Right.
And frankly, I'm very distrusting of people who tell people how to live life. I hate that shit.
I felt that way too. I watched the Joe Rogan interview. I felt about 15% better about him, but it's still a little bit.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't fuck with. Here's what you need to do in life. In fact, when people ask me, what do I need to do in life? I'm like, I have no idea.
I'm so opposed to anything motivational.
I hate motivational shit. To me is like all in you. Like for me, motivational shit is literally listening to wrestlers' theme songs and pretending I'm a fucking pro wrestler. Like I listen to wrestling themes at the gym to force myself to stay on the fucking treadmill. Like that's what I do. So am I going to say to people, what you should really do is listen to Sasha Banks' theme song. And it's ridiculous. So like I hate when people are like, here's what life is, and if you just do this, so and so did this, and it's I just don't trust it. To me, there's always something like book titles that are like the key to blah 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 when you blah blah blah. Fuck out of here, bro.
But that's also us being like adults, fairly successful, fairly confident. It's like I don't need a damn book to tell me how to do that. But when you're like 24 and you feel lost and you're trying to figure out like what you want to do with your life and stuff, that's probably like the era where you start buying all these weird Tony Robbins books. But I
would say this: the percentage of people who really make it, who learned it because they heard someone describe how to do it is so small.
Yeah.
Like you may get influenced. Like I'm influenced by Funk Flex, and like I'm nothing like Funk Flex.
Right.
But I heard Funk Flex and was like, I want to be Funk Flex. How do I do that?
Right.
So like the only thing I've ever told anyone is that pick a goal and go for a specific goal. I can't tell you anything about how to get to that goal. But yeah, obviously if you don't pick a goal, like I hate when people come and, you know, one of the hazards of my job is like people just talking to me about wanting to make it in music, right? And in one sense, it's a real blessing. Should I just drop my cigarette? You're cool with this?
No, I'm good. Yeah.
So it's like in one sense, I'm appreciative, and I don't want to seem like an asshole who doesn't appreciate that you see me as someone you should talk to. But at the same time, when you sit down and you start asking me about like every little thing you should do, it's like, bro, we live in this era now where everyone has access to everyone through social media. And so they just come to you and they're like, what should I do? And I'm like, man, everyone else before you ever did not have that. Right. And you just figured the shit out because you wanted to do it. I can't fucking tell you how to do it. I can give you a little bit of advice once you get something going. Yeah. Someone will hit me and be like, yo, can you do this? Could you play this? And I look and I'm like, bro, you have 80 followers. Like you haven't built anything yourself yet. And then another thing that's crazy, and I wonder if you've had this yet, I've now had multiple kids come up to me and straight up ask me like, yo, will you be my mentor? And Ebro gets it all the time too. And I'm like, bro, that's not how this works. You don't get to just meet someone because of social media, or you show up and say, be my mentor. Like that's awkward. Like why would I don't know you. I can't take you under my wing. I've taken 2 people under my wing because I met them naturally, organically. They worked hard, and I said, I trust you now. These are people who both people are on the list in my building to get in my house whenever they want. They take care of my dog. They could do anything for me. I trust them for everything. I don't just meet someone on the street and get to that relationship. Like that's not and it makes me feel shitty because I have to tell someone no. Like I told a kid the other day, I was like, nah, fam. I was like, you can email me questions, and if I get around to it, I will respond to said question. Yeah. But figure the shit out, bro. If you really want some shit, make shit happen, and you'll find someone who will help you. I understand some people's circumstances are tougher than others, but
kids hit me up all the time being like, you know, tell me how to start a podcast. And whenever I read that DM, I just think about if when I started a podcast, if I had just DM'd like you and Joe Rogan and like the other people I was listening to at the time and been like, hey, like, tell me exactly what to do. What equipment should I buy?
Speaking of which, is it bad that your video thing now says no signal?
Yeah, that probably is bad, huh? Did the camera die? I mean, we still got this camera, so it's all right. But
you've got a backup, but that one might be out. That might be a Rapski.
That one's still going. Nah, it's all right.
There you go. It'll switch. The video will get slightly bootleg in the middle of it.
Why does it say no signal?
No jumper, no signal. Did it come back on? It did just come back on. But your signal's back.
It never stopped recording either. All right, we'll just cut that part out. And either way, we can just switch to the second angle anyway. Yeah. I treat the video element of it as a very like secondary thing. This is a completely new thing of us like trying to record it on this and keep it real simple where it logs right onto the computer. It's been straight iPhone for the first 2 years of it.
By the way, but it's so funny too because I totally understand treating it like secondary, but then at the same time, it's funny because the videos get, I saw you have videos with millions of fucking views, bro.
Yeah, I mean, we'll do one and it'll get, 50, 60, 70,000 on YouTube and like 10,000 on SoundCloud. So it's very...
And by the way, do you know the feeling when someone like, you see someone like or tweet or retweet something of yours? Because I only see when someone verified does it. Okay. But you can't tell if the person whose name verified is someone is like the real big person or some bootleg person because people, like they're still verified, but their name is close to some, like it just said KD said blah blah. I'm like, oh, is that Kevin Durant? Yeah, that would be cool. I hope that he liked my tweet.
And it wasn't.
I don't know. I can't figure it out yet.
My favorite are like the fake Kodak Black accounts that are like tweeting inspirational quotes that Kodak Black would never ever say.
Tell me how to feel about Kodak Black.
Kodak Black to me is an interesting rapper because I think he's got so much charm, so much personality, such a great voice. He's clearly such an old soul. Sometimes I feel like he sells himself a little short in terms of his actual lyrics. Like when it comes, like he has songs that to me are phenomenal at what he's doing, but then I feel like when it comes to an album level, I feel like he a lot of times lets himself sink into like the boring punchline thing, which I don't think he's as good at. But I do think he's an unbelievable I just think there's
I just worry about that story's really bad.
Oh, everything about him court-wise is pretty fucked up.
That's the one part that's really hard because like I started playing one of his records, Patty Cake, which I think is fucking dope.
Love that one, yeah.
And I'm like, this song's really good. And it's the same thing with XXS Tentacion. It's like I don't know what to say about and it's harder as you get older. It's even harder. Like I can't really stand next to something. Like back in the day, I'd be like, oh, I don't care, whatever. I'm just putting on for. But as you get to be 37 and a voice to parents and children on the radio every day, I have to be a little bit more mindful to what I stand next to. And I'm like, it sucks when they're really talented and good, but the stories are so sketch that I'm like, I just don't know if I can fuck with this.
Yeah, I have that feeling sometimes. A huge percentage of my like rapper friends are dudes who've like very specifically had like intense, insane scandals, such as XXX. But I don't know.
You had XXX up here.
Yeah, we had his first interview. That's our biggest interview. It's got like 3.5 million views, and that was so far before anything happened in terms of him like popping off. And even that, like people always ask me like, how do you find out about rappers? I was hearing his name for 6 months before I did that interview too, because when I interviewed him, I think he had 14 or 15K on SoundCloud. And the kids, like you can tell when they have like 2,000, 3,000 subscribers or followers, and then they still are getting like an insane amount of engagement on it. You can tell when like the kids sense that there's something good going on here early on.
That is the key, by the way. I think engagement's very interesting in terms of what it says about all that shit. But yeah, I was super late on him, and I think the record's good. I'm not really into this shit right now. I got to tell you, this intentional distortion sound shit, that's going to be tough for me.
I think there's got to be a better way to do it.
Bro, it's I hate to be that guy because I'm down with auto-tune. I'm down with doing unconventional shit. I tell everyone, whenever anyone gets like all bent out of shape about a Yachty or whoever, I'm like, yo, look at Old Dirty, bro. Old Dirty, we love Old Dirty, and we consider it classic hip-hop. Old Dirty wasn't classic hip-hop. Old Dirty was fucking out here, bro.
I mean, me and you have been around long enough to remember when it was No Limit and Cash Money aren't hip hop because they're from the South.
Bro,
UGK ain't hip hop.
I smashed the Make 'Em Say a record on the radio. I broke it on the radio.
Really?
Yes.
You hated it that much?
I hated it that much.
What was it that drove you crazy about this?
Who fucking knows?
It's one of the greatest rap songs of all time.
I went and rebought it. I bought it after I smashed it, and I liked it. In that case, I turned around like 6 months later, and I'm like, this shit's fucking great. Mystical's verse is unbelievable. What am I doing?
Right.
But at the time, we just thought that shit was so whack at college radio, like all that. And then fast forward, and
what were you crazy about at that time?
Raucous.
Exactly.
And all the shit under Raucous.
In terms of the value system that you have in hip hop, it couldn't have been much more. And I don't blame you at all for like late 90s not being able to see the parallels and see how these are really just different sides of the same coin, And it's
funny too, because in retrospect, you look back, Raucous was owned by two rich white kids. And I'm sitting there smashing the records of No Limit, which is an all black label. It's like, what the fuck was I thinking? I didn't see it that way. And all you could hear was like, Mos Def and Kweli and Pharaoh, all these guys speak to me so much. I don't get that part, and which is weird because I also liked other street shit. It's not like the message in the No Limit music was any worse than the message in MOP, but I loved and respected MOP, and for whatever arbitrary reason at that point, because we were still getting used to the South, I didn't respect that.
Well, there's something about a golden tank on a basketball court at the time that I could see how it rubbed somebody the wrong way if they were fully like bumping Black Star every day for the last 6 months.
Exactly. And then as you get older, and then I started playing shit, and then I fucking loved 400 Degrees.
Right, yeah.
The song Huh by Juvenile.
Oh, that was that might have been the first time that I ever heard like really distinctly Southern hip hop and knew that it was something completely different and special,
And it was interesting too. That song was very divisive because
huge.
at first, and dude, think about how much new shit is influenced by Huh.
And that song that was before the general populace knew about Cash Money as an entity. It was Juvenile first, and that was the song, and it was insane. It was huge.
And at first, when you're like the whole song, all he's really rhyming is the word huh. That's trash.
Yeah.
That ain't rap. He's just going, you got that big body Benz, you and your friends, huh? That's bullshit. And then as time went on, I'm like, yo, this shit's fucking tight. And then Jay-Z jumps on it. You could argue that Jay-Z jumping on huh was one of the most pivotal things in the history of rap. Like you really, in terms of it, the whole thing going from East Coast, West Coast to everything. Like everyone tries to include Outkast, and Outkast is fucking super important. Of course, they said, the South is here, blah, blah, blah. But Outkast kind of was always getting a certain level of respect because they were not quintessentially Southern in many ways, even though in other ways they are absolutely quintessentially Southern. The acceptance of Outkast was one thing, but it was expected because they were so heady.
Right.
The acceptance of Cash Money, that was fucking game changing.
Right.
And Hove jumping on that record meant so fucking much. And now when you hear that everyone's going, hey, all that shit at the end of every record, and that shit, it's just weird. We have a constant fight with the older heads, and like we always mock them on the air because we always are mocking everybody who's like, we're like, oh, you're on the corner right now and you're in Nietzsche jeans talking shit, you don't like this, you don't like that, it's time. And I really do. I think there's not a line that's drawn enough of, if you say you love hip hop, you love hip hop,
right?
And that includes all kinds of iterations of it. If you love 90s hip hop, bro, be a 90s hip hop head. But that's all you are, is a 90s hip hop.
There was a moment like in the whole Chicago drill explosion where I'm sitting around listening to Chief Keef and Fredo like crazy, like just fully absorbing that and loving it. And also that was a moment where I sort of started to occur to me like, okay, I'm at that time I was probably 28, and I'm listening to all this music that these 16-year-old kids from Chicago are making, and I'm fucking loving it. And then I kept going further and further, and then I land on like Katie Got Bands, and so she is like a young girl. She's in the video. She's holding guns. She's like so clearly like a very young, like 16-year-old girl just trying to make it as a rapper. And I think there was just a moment where I was sitting there and I was like, I don't care about listening to this musically, but I love this because of what this says about hip hop and how far we've come, that you could have a 16-year-old girl rapping and really trying to do this and actually getting some kind of like fan base going. I'm like, this is amazing. This is something that we never could have seen 10 years ago or even 5 years before that, I feel like.
Well, that's what frustrates me so much about. I took a good amount of heat, not a ton by my standards that I've gotten used to. It wasn't bad, but I took a good amount of heat about saying that Kendrick is the best rapper ever. And the frustration I have with old heads being mad about that and not wanting Kendrick or anyone new to be in the conversation of greatness really bothers me. Because I just feel like if Slick Rick, Big Daddy Kane, Rakim, Ice Cube were all talking about the future of hip hop one day in some made up conference that happened in my head, right? I feel like they would have been like, if hip hop goes really well,
right,
by the time we get to like 2010, there'll be a kid who raps his ass off. He's an incredible MC. He talks about shit that's important. He doesn't promote bullshit, but it's still edgy and great. And he'll be considered a huge mainstream star. That would have been a dream.
Yeah.
And that's what Kendrick is. And yet people still are like, nah, you're going too far, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, bro, this guy put Kid Capri on his album out of nowhere. He just was like, I want to have Kid Capri on my album. And yet we still resist in spite of how good he is. I find that frustrating. Like, to see J. Cole, to see Chance, and have like these guys as the leaders moving forward. Bro, there's never been a time in which there have been more quote unquote positive artists who are popular. That's never been a thing.
Right.
All our time coming up, the big rappers weren't fucking positive.
No.
It's bullshit. When people try to, I'm not saying they were all negative.
It was impossible to even like conceive of it, like for the majority of hip hop's history, and that most hip hop was just straight up dealing with. It wasn't cool to be uplifting or whatever. The stuff Chance is doing now, it's so hard to imagine that in like a 90s framework, right?
Yeah, that would have been huge. And like, I was at a show, I was at Governor's Ball on Friday night, and this guy's singing. He's got you singing, when the praises go up, the blessings come down, and all this fucking shit. I'm not religious, and I'm singing. My wife's an atheist. She's singing it. And I'm like, bro, whether you're religious or not, the fact that everyone here is singing about like this spiritual positivity and just, it could be bullshit. It could be a million things. But ultimately, the influence it's having is positive. Like, people are still having fun. This is cool. This shit's cool. It's not lame.
Yeah.
And I have a very iffy line of like, being too positive to the point that it's lame.
Right.
But like for whatever reason, those guys, Cole and Kendrick the most, because they really don't cross into cheesy at all. I could see someone who was like really not into religion getting put off by Chance a little bit, even though for me, I'm totally good with it.
Yeah, I feel like it bothered me maybe a little bit at first. Like I just didn't want to hear about it too much. But I'm not really bothered by someone talking about religion as long as they don't cross over into like territory of talking about things that I think are inherently negative about religion. Like on I believe Nas's album God's Son, there's that song about dancing with his mother, like when she's already passed and he's dancing with her in heaven or something, and he says something about the scientists say we came from apes, but they lying though. And he's just shooting down evolution in the same context of talking about dancing with his mother in heaven. And I'm like, okay, this is the moment where I'm really not feeling the religiosity in hip hop.
Again, we are on the exact same page. As long as you don't turn into weird shit. I was reading tweets yesterday. I read an article about, the Washington Post had an article, and it was like why the religious right support Trump pulling out of the Paris Accord. And it was basically all these tweets from these big religious right people being like, we're not going to have, they look at science the way they look at liberal theories on homosexuality and transgenderism.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. They're wrong and stupid on that too. But the idea that you're connecting those things, like you guys think it's natural to be gay, which it is, but you guys think that, so I'm also not going to believe your theory on the environment ending.
Climate change just goes in the same bucket. So it's like they have to oppose it, even though it's like the most bizarre thing to oppose. It's a sad state of affairs.
There are moments when I'm very, very confused. I had a dream about Trump last night. It was like the third time I've had a dream about interacting with Trump. And when in the dream, I'm always talking to him. And when I talk to him up close, I'm able to like see that it's all a work and that like he's not a bad guy. It's a very weird fantasy I obviously have.
Right.
That like maybe it's not what it is, but it is. I mean,
we all have like held out that hope. Like maybe he'll be an all right president. Maybe it won't be so bad. And it just keeps.
The craziest shit about Trump is I know I've gotten to come into contact with so many people who interacted with him. And I'm talking about my godfather, who is so liberal, such a wonderful man, is a Jersey guy, and he's got money, and he's been involved in Jersey politics for a long time. And, I mean, he hates Trump now, but he literally never had a negative interaction with him. He was like, oh, he was always a kind, pretty warm. And you hear these stories over and over again. Like, even Dana White, who's a really smart, cool guy, will not bail on him. I'm starting a podcast with Mike Tyson. I love Mike Tyson.
Really?
I am, yes. And I wanted to make like an official announcement, though. I'm going to hold off on this. This isn't official, but it's actually up on iTunes. The subscribe thing's actually up on iTunes.
What's the idea?
And it's called Bite the Mic, which I'm not crazy about the name, but I'm never crazy about podcast names. Although No Jumper's tight, so congratulations to you. Juan Epstein was good. No Jumper's really good. There's some that are good, but basically I idolized Tyson my whole life. Like he was. It's sort of like went hand in hand with hip hop, right? Like falling in love with Mike Tyson, like this rebellious, amazing black dude who was beloved by everyone. And then when he got completely like fucked over and shit on by everyone, a lot of which by his own doing, and a lot of which by bad circumstances, he was completely torn down. Like the ultimate story of America just tearing you down. Like we loved you.
Yeah.
We all paid. You're old enough to remember, right? Like you're at least old enough to remember the late Tyson fights when it was still like.
I was like a little kid watching that shit and just like thinking he was a superhero, astonished.
It wasn't even real life.
Yeah.
Like when anyone tells you now, like this was the biggest fight ever, you're like, bro, Tyson had fights against bums that were a bigger deal than this fight.
Yeah.
What are you even talking about? So like to see him get torn down, I loved him as a little kid. But then in the early 2000s, when he was really in the shitter, I really like got really obsessed with him because his story drove me crazy. And for some reason in my fucking heart, I just believed, and this is a bit like crazed fan, to be honest with you. I was like, I believe in him as a person. He's a good person. I know it. I know that I would like get along with him and I would understand him and all this shit. And I got really obsessed. And his shit was bad then. I'm talking about this is around face tattoo, like arrest for this. He had just gotten out of jail a second time. Like shit was bad. And I was obsessed. And I'm sitting around it was like 03 maybe, and 04, and I go to the movies one day, and my best friend and I are at the movies. I'm wearing my Lennox Lewis Mike Tyson shirt from the fight that had happened. And I'm at the movies, and at this point, I was so obsessed with Tyson. I talked about him so much. And I'm walking to the movies, and I hear someone say Mike Tyson. And I was at the point of obsession that, like, I literally heard someone say his name and turned around. So I turn around when the person says Mike Tyson, and they're just, like, staring. And I literally follow their line of sight, and fucking Tyson's standing there. Mm-hmm. And he's walking into Pizzeria Uno in Bethesda, Maryland, like, where I lived, right? Because Tyson spent a lot of time in Maryland. His ex-wife, Monica's there. He has kids there and stuff. So it was shocking, but also not shocking, because I knew a lot of people be like, I saw Tyson. I said, like, it would happen in DC pretty regularly. So I fucking beeline into the Unos, and I just go up to him, and I'm like, Mike, I'm a huge fan. I like look down at the shirt. I'm like, my friend Ben. He gave me the shirt. I love you, blah blah blah. And he was really nice. I said hello. We shook his hand. Kept it moving. Fast forward, that inspired me even more. I was like, I'm going to make a documentary about Mike Tyson. Mm-hmm. So my friends, I didn't have any money at the time, and I was really obsessed with this idea. And I was sort of between radio jobs and like a little bit lost, even though I'm young still, but in my mind, I'm like falling off because I'm like 22 or something, and I don't and I don't have a job at the time. So
we're always talking about that, how you think your life's over when you're like single at 22.
And I was the same thing about my career. Like, I don't bother the radio anymore. What the fuck? I'd been on since I was like 18 years old. And I'm going to make this documentary. One of my closest friends, Chauncey, who I lived with, his mother, who just passed away, Kathleen, wonderful woman. You know how my parents love me and they believe in me, but every once in a while you have a dream that they're just like, all right, it sounds great. We heard your dreams. But Kathleen, you know, your friends' moms can be different. And your friends' moms I didn't realize until Kathleen died that she was like my friend. You know what I'm saying? Because like it's different because she's your friend's mom, but like she didn't talk to me like I was her kid. She talked to me like just a person. And she wrote me a check for like $500 and was like, go buy a camera and make your documentary. So I buy a little Sony handheld off Craigslist that was like used, and I start working on this documentary, and I start making phone calls. And I start talking to fucking, I met Max Kellerman, interviewed him. I would just go bother people and interview people. And I called fucking Tony Kornheiser, who actually, and Kornheiser's he doesn't have the best reputation in Washington for being the most friendly guy. Kornheiser called me back. He left me a voicemail, and he's like, Peter, this is Tony Kornheiser. Mike Tyson is the single most fascinating athlete I've ever covered in my life. But no, I will not speak to you for your documentary. So I keep just working and get a hold of someone. And eventually I met this woman named Jackie Rowe, who was very close to Mike Tyson. His sister, not his sister, but his sister, who was like, she ended up telling me things, and I found out he was training at a gym in Las Vegas for his fight with Danny Williams. And I was like, or no, he's training in Phoenix.
Okay.
So I booked a trip to Vegas, and I went out to Vegas, my boy Camber, one of my rapper friends who was coming up at the time. And we went out there, flew to Vegas, drove to Phoenix, showed up at the gym at like 7 a.m. and just waited.
Right.
And Freddie Roach showed up. Famed trainer, Freddie Roach.
Yeah.
Freddie Roach invites, he's like, you can come in and you can hang out. And he's like, if Mike says it's okay for you to stay, you can stay. And I'm like, holy shit. Freddie hangs out with us for the day, takes us to lunch with him, tells me fucking amazing stories that I still remember. And Tyson shows up to the gym. And like, I'll never forget, I'm sitting there and the fucking gate opens and you just see fucking monstrous legs, and fucking Mike walks in and, you know, does his little walk around, you know, says whatever, says hi to people. And he was like, hey, Mike, these guys want to make a documentary about you. And he was like, all right, and he just kind of keeps moving around. And again, this is still a time when Mike's not in a great space.
Right.
And we're hanging out, and he starts working out and shit. And eventually he comes over to us, and he comes up to me and he's like, yo, you want to make a documentary about me? And I'm like, yeah, actually, I really do. And he grabs a chair and lifts it up over his head and is like, you can't make a fucking documentary about me. You fucking, and starts screaming at me with a fucking chair over his head. And then he's like, no, I'm just fucking with you. Yeah. And we ended up sitting there and talking for like half hour about politics.
And you're how old?
Like 23.
This is still pretty impressive that you were this willing to go this far out of your way to just on this off chance that this might work.
Well, and the shitty part is I wasn't allowed to turn my camera on for any of this. So I'm just standing there like hoping this leads to something. And he eventually, we start chatting and blah, blah, blah. Nothing comes of it. Nothing happens. We just hang out. I come back the second day, hang out again. And it was awesome. And then over the years, I would see him at a fight and I'd shake his hand and he wouldn't remember me and
Right.
just whatever. And then he started coming to the radio station and he started, he would promote something and he'd come and I'd kind of give him the spiel again. I used to make a documentary about it. And when you're talking about someone famous as Mike Tyson,
You got to keep reminding them over and over.
This is someone who's literally met Michael Jackson and like the king of every country in the world.
Probably
like,
takes 1,000 photos every day.
Literally his entire life. So I just kept going. And then eventually he got to sort of remembering me. And we did this Hot 97 TV show on VH1, a short-lived fake reality show on VH1. And we did an episode and we got him to be in the episode with me. And so we did this scene together where I got to act in a scene with Tyson. So we did this show together. And by that point, like he officially remembered me.
Peter.
Exactly. No, well, the funny part was the episode was about the fact that he keeps calling me Dave, and I don't have the balls to tell him my name's not Dave, and that's based on real life. He would always call me Dave for no reason. And so eventually, after we shoot the show, he finally knows my name's not Dave. He gets to know me, and they came back maybe 2 years ago for another interview, and him and his wife, and we sit down, and she's like, "Oh my God, you're the host of Mike's podcast." And I was like, "What podcast?" She was like, "We're trying to do a podcast. You would be the perfect host." And I was like, I am literally the perfect host for this show.
I've been dreaming about this for 20 years now.
Like, this is, there's no one better on earth. And it's been like now a 1.5 year process of like figuring out paperwork. And he still requires there's still a lot of people involved and it's a big process to do.
Right.
But the trailer's up on iTunes. We've recorded a bunch of episodes. There's a Lennox Lewis episode, a Flavor Flav episode, Russell Simmons. But I really want the show to not be about guests. To me, the show is about a biographical show. It's telling the Tyson story, event by event, person by person, over the course of many, many episodes. And his life is so fucking fascinating.
Right.
Like we hung out the day after Bowie died, or like that week. And he's got Bowie stories. Yeah. Like, there's not a person you can name that he doesn't. He has multiple Michael Jackson stories. Like, he'll be like, well, I met him one time. And he was like, Michael tried to play me the first time I met him. He said he didn't know who I was.
So is it kind of like you just interviewing him every week in a way?
Yeah, that's what I want it to be. I want it to be like, what I'm going to try to do is come in with a story, have some facts, and guide him. And be like, you said in this interview X, Y, and Z. Do you remember this? Because he won't remember. I'm gonna, I have to do a lot of the guiding with
like
Mike.
A therapist type thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bit of that. Yeah. But it's truly like I've now had. Hot 97 was a dream come true. WWE is a total dream come true.
ESPN.
The ESPN wasn't a dream though. That was cool. That's just like I love doing it. Didn't dream of it.
Right. Okay.
I maybe dreamed of like, one day I want to call Monday Night Football, and I would still love to fucking get that. Remember when they put Dennis Miller on Monday Night Football?
I never watched football.
All right, well, Dennis Miller, you know who Dennis Miller is? They put him on Monday Night Football.
Right.
They put Kornheiser on Monday Night Football. Like, they've put random people. I would love that. But no, I love ESPN. It's not a dream. But the Tyson thing, getting to like tell his story and get to know him.
Right.
Like going outside to smoke a cigarette with Mike Tyson and stand there while he watches people notice him, and like getting to be there, like a kind of his confidant who's talking to him as people come up and are asking him for pictures.
Right.
And him telling me, he was like, bro, I would not have survived if they had cell phones in the era in which I was coming up. He was like, the amount of times people would have seen me while out on people, because he wasn't built for it, Yeah. Anyways, that's a long way of saying I'm doing this Tyson podcast, and I'm super fucking excited.
Where's it being hosted? You gotta.
It's hosted by it's on iTunes.
Okay.
It's
you don't have like a corporate overlord that's doing it for you?
No, there is. It's a new company. It's my radio agent started a podcast company, and they're the ones doing it because they work with Mike too.
Do you feel like at this point you've just like completely jam-packed your life with so many different projects and stuff that is it at the point where it's stressful, or you're looking for more? Do you feel like this is your purpose in life, is just to fill your life to the fucking gills with producing content every moment that you're awake?
I definitely aspire to a time in which I have like
Right.
one or two things.
Because you could pull it all back and you could be sitting around on a Thursday afternoon, like getting a tan in the backyard if you wanted to.
Right.
You could be enjoying the fruits of your success.
Yeah, that would be, well, here's the thing, not to the degree that you once could. You know, like there was a time when my job at Hot 97 paid Star, I think Star and Buck Wild got like $1 million contract, and Ed Lover got $1 million to do mornings at Hot 97.
Right.
I've never sniffed $1 million at Hot 97.
Right.
So for me, as great as the job is, it was never going to be that much money. It took this many jobs. Like I bought a place in Manhattan last year, and it took me 10 years to get to where I could buy a home. And I still had fucking white privilege kick in, and my wife's family, you know, helped us with a down payment. Like I still did the regular life shit of, you know, if you're suburban and fortunate that you have family members, like my parents kicked in something, like the regular shit people do if you're trying to buy property that's very expensive. And like, but the fact that I'm able to do that and pay a mortgage off of it all is great. But honestly, I couldn't give up. If I gave up Hot or ESPN, I would be fine, but I wouldn't be good. I need both to be like good.
Right.
Now, I would love, my dream at some point would be to like have Jimmy Kimmel's job, and that's my only job. Like I show up and I gotta tell you though, when you then like look into those jobs, you end up seeing that they're kind of boring, and the people end up sometimes, I don't know about Kimmel, but people often end up getting miserable of like all they do is show up and it's such a job.
Right.
Whereas like none of my jobs right now, the only thing that's jobby about them is that I have to show up every day. But the work itself is like show up and be yourself.
Right.
That's it.
Which
like,
is great.
I don't have any like bullshit to go through. Like the hot job at this point, they treat me fucking like gold. They let me do all my other shit. If I have to go out of town, they don't care. Like I was thinking about leaving Hot. I was like, I've been here 10 years. You know, maybe it's time. Like maybe my voice has done what it's supposed to do. And then our show fucking started just kicking ass and getting so good. And I'm like, wait a second, we just got to the zone in which I'm supposed to be doing this.
Right.
And I just got to a spot finally where I can go to a job and knock on wood, I'd have to fuck up so bad to get fired. You know what I'm saying? Like it takes time with a company to where they think of you as like, you're ours, like you're part of the team. You're
necessary. If we didn't have you, we'd be kind of fucked. Yeah.
Like we really don't want to lose. I mean, like, you know, there's Flex, Ebro, and myself are probably, you know, the biggest names on the station and have been, you know, for a while now. I've been there 10 years. I'm by far the longest running host in the history of Hot 97, morning host, like by far. And so, you know, I don't get credit for that, and I don't really expect to. But I've lasted there longer than any of the big names that came before me that people are like, oh my God, they're legends. I've surpassed their time by years at this point. And it's like, shit, I want to hold that for a second. I don't want to be there when I'm 50 and people think I look nuts. But as a morning show also, you can be a little bit older.
Right.
Morning shows aren't supposed to be kids.
What time you get up in the morning to do the morning show?
Not as early as one would think or as I should. I get up at like 5:30.
Okay.
My show starts
What
at
time
6.
you go to bed?
Later than I should, like 1.
Okay.
But I nap every day.
Okay.
I
That's
sleep for
good.
2 hours in the middle of the day between my two shows every day.
That's nice.
And then I walk to my second job, so that's not bad. It's on the Upper West Side. I live on the Upper West Side.
Would you describe your lifestyle as like enjoyable and carefree and relaxed, or are you a stress ball running around all day every day?
I'm relaxed. I chill out. I almost never go out on weeknights anymore. Labels know I don't really go to shit. Like I went to see that kid Russ perform last week because the label was really wanted me to go, and you know, if I have good relationships with the label and they
White privilege. Peter Rosenberg will go to your show.
Exactly. They're like he's a white rapper. We really think you should be here. It's important.
Peter, we think it'd be really good for the Caucasian community if you went to this.
No, in fact, I'm the worst. I'm way harder with white rappers. It takes me a long time.
Oh, yeah. Because you know they get like a shitload more benefit from the fans, you know?
The craziest thing about that show is like, I didn't know about Russ at all until like 2 months ago. I heard his name. His show was so jam-packed with fucking white people. Bro, the way that white kids go, and that's why it goes all the way back to our old conversation about white people appreciating their place in culture. Because if you don't, you turn around and you go to a show with a white rapper and all white kids, and I will always be uncomfortable with that. That to me, you start getting to a really dangerous line of like, okay, at what point is it no longer what it once was? If you have a white rapper on stage talking about white things to a white audience, What is that?
But isn't that almost an inevitability with hip hop becoming like the global language of all people, that we're going to kind of end up with rappers who seem like they mostly appeal to that audience? And also the other thing I would say is, like, if I go to a fucking 21 Savage show at the Observatory in Santa Ana, that's going to be like 75% fucking white kids
Also.
and also hugely Mexican kids and a very small percentage black people in comparison to the whites. And
I'm cool with that. Here's why I'm cool with that, though. He's still at least rapping about the black experience. So by being a part of it, you're opening yourself up. The white kids are opening themselves up. But like when white kids started showing up to see white experience rapped about, that's when I'm like, I don't have an interest in this.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that's Russ, because Russ's experience, from what I can tell, it doesn't seem like he's sitting there rapping about like, and then my mom bought me a car on my 16th birthday. It was so sweet.
I don't know a ton about him. The only thing that kind of pissed me off recently is that he did this whole thing where, like, you know, he was supposed to be on the Complex YouTube channel, like Pigeons and Planes. They wanted to do something about him. And so his response was like, no, fuck you. I used to send my music to Complex all the time, and you guys never posted me once. Fuck you. You never supported me, blah, blah, blah. He posted the screenshot of all the emails he ever sent Complex.
He's obsessed with that shit.
That is insane for him to say that, because it's like he is...
Why should they have cared about your shit?
Yeah, and he's incapable of understanding how the fucking world works. It's like, no, you sent all your music to Complex, and that day Complex got 5,000 emails from every other rapper on earth, and they didn't pay attention. And then you went out and you made yourself hot. And now, admittedly, Complex may be a little late on this. It would have been, they maybe should have gotten in bed with it, you know, when he was at 20% of where he's at right now. Now he's objectively seems like his career is fucking gigantic. But, I mean, you're going to hate on the fucking media because they're critics at the end of the day. Maybe there's an employee at Complex now who likes your shit, and 2 years ago there wasn't.
Bro, we did an interview with him in which he was not great. I'm going to do another one with him, and I'm going to bring this up with him, that he wasn't great, and he has that whole idea of like, fuck you, you didn't support me. Why the fuck do you think people are obligated to support you?
Yeah.
No one should be writing about you until right now, until you're big. Yeah, if you happen to be someone who they thought was really interesting, like, dude, Earl Sweatshirt, his story was fucking interesting.
Right.
People were all over it because it was crazy interesting. Now, that said, he still had a ton of momentum. People don't understand this. And like I said, I've learned a lot. Sitting next to Ebro, I've learned a lot about how this shit works. We have a business. We're in the business of building stars. We need ratings, okay? Us playing random music by people who don't mean anything to our audience is a waste of 3 minutes in a day. We can't waste 3 minutes in a day. Right. The reason they play Drake every single hour is because every single hour there are people out there who want to hear Drake. So when you play a Drake record, you're keeping people listening. So when you pick new music to push, so many things have to be involved. That's why people don't get it. They think it's all just like records being bought on the radio. No,
it's about keeping people on the fucking station. Yeah.
So does it help if there's a label? Yes, because if a label's involved, it likely means they're promoting it other places. They're helping you be a star. So like right now, we finally. I used to argue all the time with Ebro because I didn't think we played enough Kendrick, and I was like, now we're at a point with Kendrick where we're playing DNA, Humble, the Rihanna record. Like, we're at a point now where you can play multiple songs off a Kendrick album and it's valuable. People aren't leaving because they're familiar with him and they want to stay there. Do I wish it was a world in which like you could just play new shit? Yeah, I guess that would be cool, but like the ill-conceived part is that part's always been for shows like my show. That's always been for late night radio. You break them at late night, and then if enough spins add up and momentum adds up, you move it into rotation.
Right.
But like, so for someone like Russ to be pissed that a radio station's late, well, I sell tickets and blah, blah, blah.
He was pissed at the radio stations too?
He definitely was.
See, that's crazy because being mad at Complex is one thing because Complex could theoretically put out an infinite number of articles or pieces per day, so it's like not that big a deal for them to cover new content. But in terms of like wanting to be on the biggest radio station in the world, it's like you should understand the process if you want to be part of the music industry.
I feel that way, and a lot of people get it. Some people don't. Sometimes we tell people, "Hey, we wish we played your shit more, but please come in for an interview anyway,
right.
and we'll put it up virally on our channel, and we'll still get you love." Dude, we didn't support Chance as much as I wish we did. Like, we didn't play No Problem all the time. We spiked No Problem, which means spiking a record is like it gets in like 20 times a week, whereas Drake gets in 200 times a week or whatever it is. So, but I wish we did more. But Chance fucking gets it. And he's like, bro, it's cool. I'm here for the long play. I want to come do the interview. We talk about rappers. Like Joey used to get mad at us. And Joey's a dear friend of mine who I've supported since he was 17 years old. And he still got into it with us before about like there not being enough support. And I'm like, bro, you don't get it. The support we're able to give you is talking about you. Like we talk for 3 hours a day. So if we casually say, oh, Joey badass this, Joey badass that, that's still, you don't get it. That's not a spin, but it's part of building what this thing is.
Right.
When you have the record and the momentum, the time will come. But people still need to get the record. It's listen, I've had so many records. I could go through a list right now of Action Bronson and Chance. I thought that record should have been fucking huge a couple years ago. Childish Gambino, Sober, I thought was going to be a just absolute smash. Didn't take off. I've had Drum, Cha-Cha, I thought, which got killed by Hotline Bling, but like I thought that would be a huge record. There's so many songs that you're like, this could really be the one. And it's frustrating when it doesn't go. And just like you, like we sort of see ourselves the same way. We're sort of like A&R, we're trying to help you. Like we want people to win. And sometimes it doesn't make it through all the shit. It's just
I'm not envious of your position that you're in, where you have like that much control, that much power, but at the same time,
not enough power to do it on your own.
To do it on your own, exactly. But okay, at this point, let me ask you this: do you get hit up like with an insane amount of people just asking for interviews constantly? Blah blah blah. I feel like I might get it even worse because it seems so achievable for like a really low level artist with me.
I think you're probably right. My guess is at this point it's worse for you. And you're getting from people who think like, oh, I saw so-and-so when they were on their come up. I feel like I'm in that exact same spot, and they're not.
Yeah.
It's bad and can be a lot. But at the same time, like I think what's happened is people think I'm too big time to bother a little bit.
See, that's where I'm trying to get.
I know. It's taken a long time. I still get it sometimes. And like I still am happy to give out my email address and people reach out. But like I generally will be like, hey, you're not there yet. You know, like when you're there. Like I have people who play me shit all the time. Like, yo, this is fire. Bro, you have 400 followers. If you do your interview right now, it's a waste of your Hot 97 interview. Yeah. Like wait till you have some shit. I already fuck with it. And when you come back, let's do it. Or like, you know, there are people that I think are fucking amazing and need more shine. Like there are guys like Odyssey, who's fucking amazing and has never been truly embraced in America, and he's fucking incredible. I'll have him up every time because he's there. I know he's there already. It's just America's not on it, you know? And like he's a professional musician who tours the world nonstop. America's just fucking super late to it. But there are some people who like, they're just not in a spot to do it yet. And I try my best to nicely let them down.
Yeah, I feel you. All right, well, I'm pretty sure that iPhone over there is going to die. This camera didn't make it through the whole thing.
Exactly,
so.
That's a very good point. This has been a long chat.
This has been an hour and 35 minutes.
All right, that's good.
Solid.
I feel like once you get past that, it starts getting into like, why did you have that much free time on your hands?
Once you get to the 2.5 hour podcast, it's kind of, you start looking at it like, geez, that's a lot to bite off.
That's starting to happen a little. I want to say two quick things about podcasts. Number one, there are way too many ones that are 2.5 hours. Like it's getting to the point of unreasonable. Chop that shit up into 2 episodes. Stop it. Take it from me. I'm a broadcaster. I do this. That's too long. It's always, I mean, like I listen to some that are 3 hours and I listen to them like in 10 sittings.
I mean, you just have to be aware of how the consumer feels when they see that pop up. It's a very different feeling when you see an hour and 10 minutes versus 2 hours, 45 minutes.
It's intimidating.
Two different kinds of movies.
And then the other thing is, bro, we have to come up with a system of advertising that doesn't involve podcasts doing 10 minutes of commercials before you start the podcast now. Like, you're now turning it back into commercial radio. Like, if I wanted commercial radio, I would do my job that I already have. Like, I thought the point of the podcast is it's basically uninterrupted. So figure out a way to either do your sponsorships more creatively so it's not so annoying, or stagger them throughout in a way that makes sense. But like sometimes I look down and I'm like, dude, I'm 15 minutes in. I haven't started my podcast
yet. Wait, you know hip hop podcasts that have 10 minutes of ads in the front?
I don't either. Yeah, no, that's true. That's a very good point.
Rogan does that. There's a 10-minute wall that I just bang the 15-second fast forward button until it's over.
It's too much. Like, and I get it. You're making money and that's really good, but you got to space that shit out to me. I just think ultimately it'll kill the medium, and people will be like, wait, why did we start getting into this in the first place? Because a lot of the podcasts, they're cool, but they're not exactly polished. So why do you have you have commercials that are that of a really polished product without the polished product to go with it, right? So that's one thing that I think people need to be mindful of. But I do generally think the podcast space is is cool. It's fucking annoying, and there's way too much of it. And as someone who like is an actual, like put a lot of time into being a broadcaster, I definitely still have my moments where I'm like, fuck podcasts. But by and large, they're so cool, and there's so much opportunity, and like you have shit like yours, and a handful of others that I think really are opening doors to new shit. That it's worth wading through the 100,000 other ones that are just like, I'm kind of famous, I'm gonna talk.
Podcasts though are like the most unapproachable thing in my opinion, in the sense that like it's an hour plus of commitment a week. I'm not doing that shit unless I am insanely confident that I'm going to enjoy. Like,
in fact, I think I want you to edit me down, because I don't see anyone want to see an hour and a half with me and think they need that in their life. They're like, I hear from him on literally every medium possible.
Like last year, I'm trying to think of podcasts that I've genuinely given a shot, like Nori. Okay, like you've earned my trust over like the past 20 years of making great music. Sure, exactly, okay. Sure. Not a lot of other ones.
No, I'm with you 100%. Like, if you haven't given me a lot of credibility,
or you haven't put a lot of work in to make me just keep noticing over and over, like, oh, this guy's doing good shit. Okay.
Well, and at first, people start doing the 2.5 hour ones, and I'm like, oh, I get why you're doing this. You need the room because X, Y, and Z. And then you keep listening, and I'm like, there's so much shit you could have cut out of this that you weren't supposed to do. And like, Ebro used to think we were insane because Syph and I would do an hour. He'd be like, no one wants to hear an hour of straight talk. And I'm like, no, trust me, they do. I think when you start getting up to close to 3 hours, he's right. And you're starting to be like, no good interview needs that much time. Like, think about historically the great interviews that have made huge impact. They were on TV shows where there was 40 minutes of interview time.
Right.
Like, I think if you can't do it in 40 minutes to an hour.
But it's a nice reaction to like what we're used to on like CNN, when they have like two people come out that I would love to see have like a legitimate debate, and then they give them fucking 4.5 minutes with like Sean Hannity screaming at him in the middle. And it's so far away from anything approaching like an actual intelligent discussion.
And that's why you go the other way. And at some point we'll find the middle where it'll be right. Dude, keep doing your thing though. I think it's super cool that you're doing it. And that you're reaching so many people and helping these artists get on, and like keeping culture alive by like really making these artists more important.
I appreciate it. And thank you for the inspiration in the first place, because Juan Epstein was like the thing that made me basically start doing this. So,
well, I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate people who regularly say, like if someone tweeted me, they're like, after we announced it was ending, it was like, I don't care what anyone says, y'all are first. I'm like, someone said we weren't first? Because I know for a fact there was nothing else first. We were the only ones. So I do appreciate it, because like I said, we sure as fuck didn't get rich doing it. So it's nice when you see that like other good shit is happening, and we were in some way an influence is tight. So good looking.
Hey, thank you so much, Peter Rosenberg. This has been No Jumper, coolest podcast in the world. YouTube, SoundCloud, and iTunes. It's been an honor, man. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you, bro.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Boom. You forgot.
Beautiful.
Here we go.
Bottom of the stairs.
Right to the left.
To the left.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. That was just about to die. Huh?
Yep.
If you don't fuck with me, you're a stupid, dumb idiot. If you don't fuck with me, you're a stupid, dumb idiot. I'm ballin' like an alpha.